Hey everybody, welcome to Coretalk of Battlecore. My name is Corrie Edwards, and together I am with Tom,
So,
John,
Yo.
and Isaac.
some people.
Today we're going to talk about tech cards. Tech cards are cards added into decks to help fight against certain problems. Some people put them in quantities of 1 or 2. They don't necessarily complete the deck in terms of strategy, but they're just added in there to help against certain matchups and strengthen up certain weaknesses. So what do you guys think about tech cards?
I like doing them. I like doing them for the fact that for those unpredictable moments, like you versing like another deck, this could be just a general thing. When you verse other like decks or other themes, and your deck doesn't do well, like for example, let's look at Yu-Gi-Oh! Using a Blue Eyes deck, and you're versing like a banished deck, you're gonna maybe want to run like that roll decree, so this way they don't have that set back row or like anti-banish cards. This way you have an edge, because once, like for most Blue Eyes players, once their cards are getting banished before they can use them, they're getting trashed.
Yeah.
What you guys think?
Well, I personally love tech cards myself. Like it says, it provides a unique out to a certain playstyle that you have, and it also should complement what you're doing in your deck. So it also shows an individuality in the deck, because not many people who are playing with the meta have these one-card techs in their deck. So all these decks on paper, when you have to write the card list, is all the same. 4 of this, 4 of that, 3 of this, 2 of this, and whatever generic cards that are like staples.
Meta.
Yeah. Like even in my Shadow Paladin deck that you guys see me play in Card Fight Vanguard, let's look at Dead Armor Dragon. I put a tech of 1 within the deck. So when it comes to certain situations where I want to rip more cards out of my opponent's hand or throw off the rhythm of the game, I bring him out with, the main, since he's a, 5K unit. And majority of the time, I don't bring him out. It's just when I really need the card to push a certain moment of the game forward. Especially when I'm behind. And my opponent has so many cards. Because Dead Armor Dragon's skill is Soul Blast 1. When the unit attacks, the opponent has to guard with 2 or more cards if they were to guard for that unit that's attacking at the time. And that's been giving me a lot of different outcomes when it comes to winning some of my games. Tom, what do you think about tech cards?
I mean, me personally, I love tech cards. I call it like the surprise factor. When you have a tech card, the surprise factor.
The surprise factor. Surprise!
All of a sudden, like, you think that you have this person nailed. Like, you know exactly how they're going to be fighting. And then all of a sudden, they got this one random surprise card that you were not expecting that can actually kill you. And I've seen it happen. It happened to me plenty of times. I've done it to plenty of people. Like, the easiest tech card that I've ever seen is the Pearl Sisters for Bermuda Triangle. Because you can only play one of them. But it doesn't mean you play them in all the decks, because they're so circumstantial. Because you lose one, you lose both.
Right. So I have a question for everyone. So it seems like we know that tech cards, or what we're assuming, that tech cards are that low quantity or one-ofs inside the deck. But just because we play a card at 1 of, do we consider it as a tech card? Do we consider 2 as a tech card? What do we consider a card as a tech card? For an example, within a Shadow Paladin deck, let's look at Danger Lunge. Even though we may put it in there as a 1 of, it may not be considered a tech card. Because it is a grade 3 that works on Rearguard and Vanguard. We know how impactful it is. It could just be a really strong card that we put in the deck as a 1 of. So what do we consider a tech card in terms of quantity and maybe the usage of it?
I think what I would consider a tech card is a card that helps you or aids you in a situation that is unprecedented. To give an example, let's say I like Yu-Gi-Oh, so I'm gonna use Yu-Gi-Oh. All right. Sorry, the rest of y'all Vanguard guys, you can stay over there.
Oh no, that's perfectly fine. We should not be just only on the Vanguard thing, you know?
I just you guys do you, man. But I'm gonna do me and go Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah. Coretalk, is all things TCG, baby.
Yeah, man. So yeah, let me use like, because for example, I like using Fel Grand Dragon, and hopefully Konami hear my prayers one day and give me more support.
Fel Grand Dragon.
Fel Grand Dragon, baby. But yeah, the Dragon users, as I stated before, have a very strong issue against decks that specializes in banishing their materials or resources. So using cards like I forgot the name of the card, but it's a trap card, team's trap card that prevents any cards from being removed from play while it's face up on the field. Now this card doesn't see a lot of play because a lot of cards, a lot of archetypes, I should say, doesn't just straight out banish things, But I would consider that a tech card because you use it to cover your weaknesses. But even if you don't need it, it's still there if something were to arise that counteracts you. Right. Yeah. That's something because if you know you have a weakness that can be strongly exploited, or you need that extra push for this particular decks that work very well against you, a tech card is what you would put in to aid you in that regard. It's not going to be used 100% of the time, but when you need it, it's there.
Yeah.
What you got? What do you think about it?
Well, I do agree with you that you know how TCGs do limit cards like that down to 1. I don't think necessarily that they would be considered tech cards unless they have utility that goes. Like, I agree with that one statement that you said, that it's utility against the meta. So if you're actually using it in like a meta deck that literally says like, oh, you need this one-off, I would still consider that part of the meta because everybody and their moms are playing it.
So basically if it's an unpopular card.
Yeah, an unpopular card that's like maybe...
Like Bende?
Like Bende.
Bende from what?
From Shadow Paladins.
Shadow Paladins.
Okay.
Like even if I put it in there as a one of, it's not considered tech to me personally because
it's part of his strategy.
Right. Every Shadow Paladin, every Phantom Blaster Shadow Paladin deck is going to have it. It's nothing that it's not a surprise. It's not something that's going to help me out of a situation. It's part of the engine that's within the deck. And because of how Shadow Paladin works with their grade 1s and 5k units, getting that thing out is just easy. But it's not going to help me fight against, Bermudas when they get their new set, and how dominant they're going to be every time they get new sets, Kagero, or so on and so forth. It helps me superiorize. That's the engine. It is I'm pushing forward anyway. That's what we do.
Okay.
But to help me fight back against a problem, to maybe help me get an advantage or take away an advantage, Bende's not doing that. Okay. Even if I put it in there as a tech of 1.
And since you brought up Yu-Gi-Oh, I'll put it in terms of Yu-Gi-Oh. Let's say the archetype Sky Strikers. A lot of people know the engine of Sky Strikers. One of their cards, known as Widow Anchor, was back in the day limited to 1. That's still not. I don't consider that a tech card for us because that's still a necessary card for us to play because it's just all around good. It goes with our strategy. We get to steal your monsters, use it as we please.
Fair enough.
And it doesn't go against my strategy. But it doesn't, help counter his strategy.
Okay.
So let's say in that deck, I tech... Because my personal tech in that deck is Mirror Force and the Fang of Critias. Those 2 cards, no matter who you ask, does not belong at all whatsoever in a Sky Striker deck. But me personally, I see value in it because Fang of Critias is a free spell card in my drop zone. And Mirror Force...
Wait, graveyard.
In graveyard. You're right. In the graveyard. And Mirror Force, the card that's used to fuse into Mirror Force Dragon, is not only a tech card as well for me because my Sky Strikers do not rely on trap cards whatsoever. But if I wanted to, I could lay that face down, Mirror Force my opponent. But now in the days, everything has negation from destruction.
Oh yeah, nobody can't be destroyed by card effects. You good old.
Can't be targeted.
Yeah.
Unaffected by card effects.
And that's why I have Mirror Force Dragon there, because if you attack into Mirror Force, it indiscriminately destroys everything. And it's still an extra monster on my field protecting me. And that's my personal opinion on the tech, because even though it's not at a 1 copy, it's a full play set of Mirror Force in there. It has nothing to do with my strategy. If I don't see it, I don't need it.
So would you say more so is this a general out sometimes?
It's a general out
Okay.
to the meta.
So is it the quantity of the card that means it's a tech?
I think it's your intentions to make it a tech.
So let me ask Tom. What do you think?
I always saw tech cards as like one or two ofs, but I do see that they're. I'm going to keep saying surprise factor, but there's always going to be a surprise factor card that maybe you play a playset of it because you never expected that card to be in that deck.
Mm-hmm.
Like I put, as an example, for my Riviere deck, most people play the Grade 2 Riviere that gets plus 10k when you ride a Riviere. I did something different.
Mm-hmm.
I put the Grade 2 that skill says, Counterblast 1, get the power of your Vanguard if you did not get boosted. So it's very unexpected to see that card in the deck.
See, I played against you before I quit Vanguard, and I don't like when you tech cards. You trolled me. When I was younger, you trolled me so hard. So if I were to use...
He said when he was younger, you done scarred him all the way till now.
Bro, like...
To be fair, I scarred you too.
Yes, you did.
As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, Tom has a reputation here.
Dude, a reputation. One clan scars me.
I actually did scar several people with my decks. So much so that they actually, sometimes when they see me, they're just like, I refuse to play.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I mean, you sent me a deck list, and you scarred me just from looking at your deck list because it's not the thing you told me it was. I refuse to believe it.
Dude, it is...
To be fair, there was like 7 tech cards in that deck.
Damn,
Yeah.
seriously? That's crazy. Dude, when I played him in a tournament one time, and I was like, no. We went to a tournament before. And I was just walking in with him and Josh, and we are just like, yeah, got our pairs. And I'm like, I want to fight Tom. Here goes Josh. Why? Do you want to fight Tom? Nah, you right. Right. 2 rounds later. Dang. What's up? I got to fight Tom. Now, granted, I knew how his deck plays. But then that one card in Bermuda, it's always one card that just changes everything. And I'm just kind of like, really? And this dude on premium, by the way. I'm like, really? What's that great one do? And it's like this one great one does this one little thing, and the whole game plan just changes. I'm like, man, I'm just gonna go out. Don't worry about Tom. I'm just gonna go out.
Shake your hand. GG.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go out. I'll go to my next opponent, make up that loss, and just keep going.
Wait. Was it a one of at that time?
Yes.
Oh God. Right.
Tom had one of those.
Oh, the good times.
Remember, we get triple drive at that time. So his whole hand's packed full of one-ups.
It's like, for any situation I need.
And then
he's trapped.
Charles, then back then you had a lot of bouncing in your hand too.
Oh yeah, I did a lot of shenanigans.
And like you just said, he had 7 cards that were tech cards.
Mm-hmm.
7 cards, so it doesn't have to just be 1 card here, 1 card there.
And there were always multiples. That even though it was technically a tech card, I had 2 of one card, 3 of another. My perfect guards were completely different than what normal people were gonna play.
Mm-hmm.
And you see, it's all in his intention of that game.
So is it so it's not really the quantity, but it's the attention of the card. So is it a card that deviates from the original plan or engine of the deck?
Yeah. I mean, again, surprise factor.
Deviates in a way that doesn't hurt the deck.
It doesn't hurt the deck. It doesn't make the deck harder to play, but it puts your opponent kind of like on tilt because they weren't expecting that particular play.
And now they're in a position where they're in the rock and a hard place, and they don't know whether to take the rock or stay in this hard place and just eat it.
So would you say it's the surprise factor because the card you put inside your deck deviates from the meta?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess one common term we maybe could say for maybe a tech card is that it's unpopular. Is what you were saying?
Yeah. Like some decks, when it comes to, best example would be Bermuda's.
Mm-hmm. Bermuda's from Vanguard?
For Vanguard.
Mm-hmm.
Bermuda Triangle. There's so many different types of decks, but there's always the one deck that was the most powerful. When the first standard set for Bermuda came out, the main deck that people played was always Melody, There was another build called Highlander, where you played one of every different card.
Hold on, pause. That sounds like such a hype name. And you're telling me the name was given to mermaids?
Yes.
The reason it was called Highlander was because...
That's what I said.
Highlander!
Well, think about it. Have you ever seen the show Highlander? There can only be one.
Dude!
Wow.
So a bunch of idols battling
I
to be the
didn't know
top?
that until you just said it.
Wait, you didn't know that?
I know about the
Dang.
show, but I didn't connect the two until he just said it.
Wow.
There can only be one. Oh, man. And they had to give it to Bermudas.
Yep. And Bermuda's has like one of the most amount of different variation decks. Next set comes out. Now you've got Melody, Coral, Highlander, Riviere, Pacifica, even just an Eve deck by herself.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously when the set before the ban list came out, the set that was the most damaging, the most powerful was Riviere. Nobody else was playing anything else. It didn't matter if it was another deck was just as good like Pacifica.
Yeah.
Because nobody really deviated from Riviere. Except me, I played Pacifica.
Because everybody liked the fact that pre-errata now, Riviere, you could just grab 4 copies of a grade 3 Riviere and just keep rewriting it over and over and over again. And if your opponent, like, back in those days, most of the skills procced off if my Vanguard was grade 3. So what the Riviere player would do would just ride grade 3 Riviere, ride grade 3 Riviere, ride grade 3 Riviere, ride into grade 2 Riviere. Now you can't do anything about it. I already have 4 force markers on my field.
I'm at grade 2.
I'm at grade 2.
I'm going to have to G-assist to get my grade 3 again. But I've already gone through everything, and your hand is now gone, and you're at 5 damage, or you're dead.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So just to like get like more of the diverse examples, what other clans, I guess, in Vanguard would you think of, or like meta, or times of meta where maybe you putting a tech card that time helped you push past the meta? Like maybe from like Kagero or
one
like
deck
Paladins?
that I found very interesting was one of Corey's Kagero decks, where he played Overlords, but he teched the grade 1 and 2 cards that was for, what was it called?
What was
Blade
the
Master.
Blade Master.
Okay.
And then
Can
along
you
with
name them?
Sky Strike Doha and
It was Doha
Wyvern
and...
Strike Garan and Wyvern Strike Doha.
Right.
Wyvern Strike.
And with those 2 cards, he made the deck not only more consistent but more annoying. But then he decided, you know what I want to do? I'm going to tech in some Blade Masters too, because you never know when I want to board wipe your field. And it's so annoying because you see him have the grade 1 and 2 on the field, and then you're just thinking to yourself, is he going to ride Blade Master? Is my field fucked? Sorry for my language. Is my field about to get destroyed? And now you're thinking to yourself, should I put all those cards on my field now? Or should I hold back?
Should I hold back? You sound like a
And
character.
now,
Should I go forward?
And now you're
Should I go back?
stuck. Because you have to either take the chance that he does not have Blade Master in his hand, or hope that he just chooses not to ride the Blade Master that's in his hand.
And that right there is not just a 1-card tech. That's an entire ride chain tech.
And it forces your opponent to think and strain their mind, because if they're thinking too much and too hard, they're going to mess up their own plays.
Because those of you who don't know, in Vanguard, rear guard for most clans are very important.
Okay, fair enough. So I guess I'll persevere with this question. At what point, I guess, would a tech no longer be considered a tech? Like, for example, you brought
I was
up
thinking the same thing.
Exactly. Like, at what point would that be? It's like you said for Corey, he put in Blade Master. So what? Let's say, I don't know what card he put in there, but let's say he put in like a lot of cards that support Blade Master, and he put Dragonic Overlord and a lot of cards that support Dragonic Overlord. Would that not be considered just a Dragonic Overlord with a Blade Master deck, or is it still just Dragonic Overlord with the tech of Blade Master?
Well, I would say I would consider it not a tech if you start focusing too hard on it. So a good example right now that a lot of Vanguard players would know would be Gray and Blue. In the original Night Rose build, now this is back in Japan too, as well. I'm sure a lot of us Vanguard players also follow the meta in Japan as well, just as a reference, because they get all the cards first. Now, back then, they didn't use Skeleton Navigator. And Skeleton Navigator is a 7K grade 1 that says rest itself and another rear guard, mill the top 5 cards of your deck. Back then, everyone in Japan was just playing the generic grade 1 searcher. And if you don't know what a generic grade 1 searcher is check top 5 for a grade 3. If you add a grade 3 to your hand, discard a card. And everybody was playing that. Nobody was playing the Skeleton Navigator.
Okay.
And now all of a sudden, one person decides to just, all right, I'm gonna drop the entire generic grade 1, add Skeleton Navigator, take it to a tournament, and now everybody's just dropping it. And for me personally, right now it's just considered a tech card to me because I like it. It gets through threshold numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody else uses it because everybody sees more value in just milling the top 5 cards on demand.
I can tell you're really passionate about this because you're running out of breath.
I heard the guess. He was really getting into that one.
I mean, I kind of agree with that. Like, I consider a tech card no longer a tech card in some ways. If you built a deck that has a tech card, and then say it wins or it does really good and it gets revealed and all that stuff, all of a sudden people start playing it. Now, that's an interesting thought process because now it's no longer a tech card because
it's
everybody is now playing
it's basically now part of the new popular meta deck build of whatever genre that card
and whatever got like booted is technically now the new tech card of the deck.
So I think like it's because we can fairly say it's consistent. Like tech card is virtually an unpopular card that helps you against the said meta. I think that's maybe like a safe definition. So my question is like, let's take a few steps back.
Mm-hmm.
We said earlier that tech cards are not usually just a one of. You can have multiple copies of a tech card if need be. You can have the full place if need be. So let me ask this question. So I know in Yu-Gi-Oh, we have things called engines where you mix 2 decks together and then you have the central focus and then you have the engine. Let's use this for example. You have
like the Sky Striker engine we had
exactly
way back when Engage wasn't banned.
And let's use the Blue Eyes deck that might have a safe fair engine where you discard a level 8 to get another level 8 and you do all these exceed plays. Let's use that for example. So at some point, if it's just an engine, or is all those cards considered tech cards, or is that just a general engine because they have a larger focus on your play style?
With that question, I have another one that kind of goes with it in a way. Is what stops a unpopular tech card from being a staple?
Mm-hmm.
Because just because it's unpopular doesn't mean it's not a staple. It just means people are not playing it right now because it doesn't fit with their current playstyle of that deck. For an example, when it comes to Mordred, people play. What's that grade? The grade 2 that goes with Blaster Dart. The javelin guy with the spear. Kalite?
Yes.
Right. And I think his heals when Blaster Dart's on the field, he gains +10 in attack power and in shield.
+5 shield.
Right. But when he's with any other Shadow Paladin deck, whether Blaster Dark's in there or not, you don't see him. By the way, I'm not saying he is a staple, but I'm just for the sake of the talk as an example.
Okay.
If he was a staple.
Yeah.
Just because he works in other Shadow Paladin decks, which he can work in all Shadow Paladin decks, because if they have Blaster Dark in it, he's not in any of the rest of them. Something else is taking the spot.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you can put him in there as a staple. I mean, as a tech.
Mm-hmm.
So what stops a card from becoming? Go my question. What stops a card from not being a staple?
So I think where we might, this is where I might disagree at some points. I feel like a staple has to have some level of popularity because like I guess coming from Yu-Gi-Oh community, some people may argue that Infinite Permanence is a staple because of how adaptable it is. Mm-hmm. Like it can be used in a lot of general situations. It can be used in a real against. It's just very versatile. I think a staple is a card that's extremely versatile against numerous decks to the point where its consistency is so high that you can slap any deck and it's considered a staple. And then for that to happen, I think the card has to be fairly popular. Because like there was a point in time in Yu-Gi-Oh where Mirror Force was considered a staple because it literally just if you attack me even once, you could risk your whole board being blown up if you don't have any sort of protection like Stardust Dragon at the time. So I feel like there has to be some popularity for a staple to work, or for a card to be considered a staple.
Right.
That's my opinion. What do you guys think?
Well, again, it goes back to what I stated before, that any card in the world can be a staple card. So long as it doesn't necessarily have to fit in your deck, but it helps you out something. It helps you, like, let's say, like, in your case, let's say I have a board of 7 negates. Let's say, like, it just negates Raigeki, negates Dark Hole, negates all of the Power 5 cards that we all know and love and hate. And we just get, like, an Omni negate. Or, like, something like Neo Galaxy Eyes Tachyon, or Neo Galaxy Eyes Tachyon Dragon, or something like that, that you just throw in the deck that can negate all the negates on the field.
Without being negated.
Without being negated.
I think a better example would be maybe for example, like put in the Yu-Gi-Oh terms for y'all. The standard board where someone goes first turn and they pop off with a bunch of combos and it's like they got 4 or 5 negates. It's like,
now they have Ball Sword Savage Dragon with a link too, and now they can just
and you just look at the board and be like, oh lordy, what am I gonna do? And Konami just recently blessed us with something called Forbidden Droplet.
Oof.
Yeah, where it's like, hey, I can't negate all your negates. I can negate all your negates, and you can't negate me back. So like cards like that, I consider being staple because of their versatility.
Yeah. Because everybody needs it in the deck.
Yeah.
And if you don't run it, you're out of luck because you're just gonna get 7 negates. You're not even gonna be able to summon your hand.
I wouldn't say you're out of luck. I would say you have a higher probability of losing against the meta without that card than with that card.
It's Yu-Gi-Oh! You're gonna lose the next turn.
Jesus. Jesus.
When they have 7 negates, 9 times out of 10, the addition of all them cards equals not enough life points.
So, I have a question is, would you advise people to run techs in decks that they build? Some decks can sacrifice some pieces to put a tech card in there to change the rhythm or the aspect of the deck or the flow of it during games.
Okay.
But some decks, even if you just take out one card, can mess up their engine.
Yes, that is true.
What do you guys think about that one?
Tom? It all depends. Like when you're testing these things out, when you want to tech cards in, you have to make sure that it doesn't mess up your engine. Like, at least for, like, maybe ride chain type decks, or like an Ezel deck. Like, don't tech in a particular grade 2 if you have to take out one of the main grade 2s that lets you superior ride. Because it's not going to help. Or, say, in Mordred Phantom deck, don't take out Blaster Darks because you're playing less Mordred Phantoms. If you have Mordred Phantom in your deck, you're more than likely going to ride him at one point. You want to have as many Blaster Darks as possible. But when it comes to tech cards, you should always be thinking, okay, so these are the main focus cards. I cannot remove anything here. I have 2 extra spaces. What kind of saucy plays can I do with these 2 spaces?
Okay. I'm sorry to interrupt. Maybe how to diversify your playstyle? Maybe?
Yeah.
Okay.
And text cards, in my opinion, shouldn't be a hindrance to your deck. If it's a hindrance to your deck, if you need to take out a major key part just to fit it in, then I don't think every deck requires a tech card. Because if it just messes up with that synergy, let's say Night Rose again. If you have to take out a Night Rose, the main unit of that card, just to tech in something from Cardfight Vanguard.
From Grand Blue?
From Grand Blue, correct.
Okay.
If you have to take out a major card like that, just to tech in another grade 3 like Cocytus, just because you want that tech, just to bring back more creatures, just in case you want to keep a field. That literally deviates from your entire, the entire deck you build around. That literally deviates from your main selling point of what you want to do, how your game's gonna win.
Mm-hmm.
It shouldn't deviate from your
The main
like
strategy.
the winning image that you have.
Your win condition, you would say?
Yeah, your win condition.
Right.
It shouldn't like be like, oh, I played this one tech card, but if I have to, like in Vanguard, sometimes you're just stuck riding it.
Okay.
And if you ride it and your entire strategy just goes kaput, it no longer becomes a tech card. It becomes something more along the lines of, dang, man, this just lost me the game.
Should there be like other situations where a player would say, hey, I'm going to try to put a tech card in my deck because I draw a lot, I can search, for like something like Grand Blue, I can get these things back from my drop zone. You know, some decks don't have the ability or the aspect of obtaining these tech cards. And some people may put tech cards in there to fight against problems that the deck has, such as I can't handle retirements on my side of the board. So I'm gonna put in there who gives my board immunity. But if that person can't get to it fast enough in any of his games, then what's the purpose of that tech card? They may say, hey, instead of making this card a tech card, I'll increase one of the quantities of something that's in my deck so that when they blow it up, I can have it back. Or I'll increase the quantity of a card in the deck with another card that does the same job, maybe not as good, so that if that card gets retired, I still have the same aspect on the board, maybe not as good, but it still replaces that unit.
Yeah. One of the things that I think about is, at least when it comes to tech cards, if something is not helping you in your deck, like say you counterblast a ton, but you don't really have any countercharge in your deck, you might want to tech some sort of countercharger. Even if it's a very difficult countercharger to pull off, like say it has to boost Vanguard and you have to attack.
You have to hit, and then you have to Soul Blast one, and then stack a grade 3.
And you have to
on
have
the drop
no
zone.
face-up damage. Like, even if it's super difficult, even just that one counterblast might save you. Like, I played, for a Bermuda deck, here's something that's Bermuda name. I played a grade 1, that skill was Soul Blast 2, unflip 2 damage. Not as powerful as you might think, but considering how heavy my counterblasting was, it was a necessity. And luckily for me, since Bermudas back then just bounced units, I just bounce it back into my hand and play it next turn for more countercharging. And I only needed the one. If I took anything else out to put a second one in to add consistency, I would actually ruin my deck.
So
Okay.
So ratios. I think maybe at that point ratios become very important. Like,
Almost
whether-
definitely.
very
If ratios can make or break a deck,
Yeah.
I would think.
Card games, bro. I need one of. Nope, now I need two of. Well, guess I need a 3. I feel like that comes from experimenting to what playstyle you want.
Oh, yeah.
You know, definitely for sure.
Yeah, that's how I, with my Riviere deck, with the Counterblast 1, get the same power as your Vanguard. Originally, I had 2 in there. And I'm just like, but I can do more.
Power.
What?
More. Power.
Were these Lizettes important enough to get a superior call? Or should I just get more power, consistent power? And I just moved the Lizette out.
He sounds
and
like
I put
a
another one in.
Metabots like TV show. More Bermuda, more power.
So I put another one in. And I'm like, you know what? This Lizette is trash now. 4.
Oh man, it really do be like that because you find out that this thing is not, even if it's good for like consistency, it may not cater to your playstyle. So you look for something else, and I guess you consider that your tech, you know, because it fits your playstyle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Every tech is unique to the player, and sometimes a player just can't do a tech. Like some people just don't like it because it messes with their consistency. It's not with their playstyle. It's not within their what they want to do to win. Sometimes, like, they never want to see this card, but when they see it, it's a brick, as we call it in card games.
Yeah.
It's literally sitting there in your hand doing nothing because your opponent literally is not playing the clan this card was designed to go against, and now it's just a dead card in your hand.
Yeah.
And some people just don't like that.
I have been in that situation far too many times in card.
Because, like, everybody that goes to competitive seed knows what is meta. And some people just go in, all right, we're going to go anti-meta. And then they just sit down in front of the first player and they're like, all right, you have a meta deck. All right, next person, you have a meta deck. Then in the finals, crap. You don't have a meta deck. Now my entire hand is a brick.
That's why I love rogue decks. They're so random, and you never expect to see them.
Yeah, you just see
But
a
because
random
they
ass.
counterplay everything, you're not expecting it to show up. And since you don't expect it to show up, the deck itself is a tech.
I was just thinking that.
A tech to the
Exactly.
meta.
Rogue
A
decks
tech to
are
the meta.
actually techs themselves. One tech deck that I actually built a long time ago
Tech deck.
Tech deck.
Hey, he called it
Was-
options.
was a Hayaki reverse deck. No one expected it, but it performed very well because no one expected to see it come around.
To take a moment, Dr. Tom, could you explain what you just said?
Fact.
Dang,
Reverse
this,
what?
this was back way back.
Reverse. I forget what Hayaki was,
That was
basically.
the second season.
Like, I remember the
got,
Joker.
it got like power.
Late Joker.
It got so much power, and it was so hard to block. That was so unexpected, and you got it off so easily. You had basically a full field of grade 3s without even trying, and even if they blew them up, you could get them back.
Huh. For all our old fans, before the reboot of Vanguard, you might know about this.
Oh, okay. So I see it. Is this it?
Yes, reverse.
Yep. So the skill is limit break 4. Wow.
I told you it was old.
But I
And
used,
it's
I
an-
used,
and it's
I
an
used
axe.
limit break enablers too, so it didn't matter what
Right. Yep.
how much damage I was at.
And it was an axe skill. Choose 2 of your Murakumo rear guards and lock them. Choose up to 3 of your covert demonic dragon Yaki Vogue reverse, and those units get plus 10 until the end of turn.
Okay. Okay.
Ouch.
That's that's death. That sounds like, so you have chosen death. That's what I'm hearing. That is what I'm hearing.
And because you can just grab them so easily, it was a fun deck to play. But it was rogue because nobody was expecting it.
Well, I guess that's all. That's everything we gotta say on text, huh?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yep.
Right?
Pretty much. You know, text, tech decks, and Bermudas.
When you become a tech to the meta,
When you become a tech to the meta.
aka rogue deck. Quite an interesting conversation, I would say, about seeing like what kind of terms players use to determine what is what part of the deck. I feel like some kind of like maybe deck building philosophies is what being implemented here.
Yeah.
But maybe we'll talk about that for another time, folks.
Yep. Well, thanks everyone to coming to the Core Talk, where we talk about all things TCG.
Leave a comment down below as telling us what you thought about anything we missed and start our various discussions. Like, subscribe, comment, and thank you for coming again.
And ring that bell for the notifications.
Hey.
All right. This
out,
is
man.
Corrie of Battlecore
Tom?
And John.
And Isaac from Battlecore.
signing out.